Will there be more New York Times articles on UFO crash retrievals? Let's examine that question. On July 23rd, the New York Times published an article on UFO crash retrievals, which I covered in my last video. The New York Times did a follow-up article on July 28th, which I found even more powerful than its predecessor. In my opinion, the New York Times will do more articles on UFO crash retrievals. And more than ever, I'm leaning toward the assessment that there's a reasonable chance the United States government has recovered at least one intact vehicle not derived from human civilization. With a follow-up article that dropped on July 28th titled, "Do we believe in UFOs? That's the wrong question." Here are some very compelling quotes. Our previous stories were relatively easy to document with Department of Defense videos of UFOs and pilot eyewitness accounts backed up by Navy hazard reports of close encounters with small speeding objects. But our latest article provided a more daunting set of challenges since we dealt with the possible existence of retrieved materials from UFOs. Going from data on a distant object in the sky to the possession of a retrieved one on the ground makes a leap that many find hard to accept and that clearly demands extraordinary evidence. I would count myself among those that find it hard to accept. I do believe the United States government has retrieved pieces of UAP that probably don't originate from human civilization, but a fully intact craft is a much bigger leap, and for unclear reasons, I find it hard to believe. Though not as much as before with the publication of the July 28th follow-up article. The following quote from that article is partly why. Numerous associates of the Pentagon program with high security clearances and decades of involvement with official UFO investigations told us they were convinced such crashes have occurred based on their access to classified information, but the retrieved materials themselves and any data about them are completely off limits to anyone without clearances and a need to know. I gotta tell you, that is just a mind-blowing sentiment, and I don't think you can responsibly hand-wave that away and just state that you don't trust Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, or the sources they spoke with within the Department of Defense. Now, the named sources in the July 23rd article were Dr. Eric Davis, Luis Elizondo, and former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. But the reality is that Kean and Blumenthal had other sources that simply were not named in the article that support the narrative that UFO crash retrievals are real. Leslie expounds on that in the following clip taken from Project Unity's recent interview with Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal.
And I think, though, Jay, the other sources the way they do help us. I mean, yes, they can't help us with the actual text of the story, but they give us added confidence that what we're saying is accurate. And they just, that's basically what they do. They bolster what we're saying so that we actually have a lot more information behind what we're saying than what we're actually just able to say. And that's the value that other sources have, because then, we have great more certainty and confirmation about what we're saying, even though we can't name them. They provide a lot of background information for us, which is very helpful.
Here is another compelling portion of the follow-up article. We were provided a series of unclassified slides showing that the program took this seriously enough to include it in numerous briefings. One slide says, one of the program's tasks was to arrange for access to data reports materials from crash retrievals of AAVs, or advanced aerospace vehicles. Our sources told us that AAV does not refer to vehicles made in any country, not Russian or Chinese, but is used to mean technology in the realm of the truly unexplained. They also assure us that their briefings are based on facts, not belief. And here's the slide. Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, twofold nature of threat. Number one, current threat. AAV, phenomena of foreign derivation, including off-world, being globally deployed, tested, including in CONUS. Number two, future threat, potential terrestrial adversaries achieving significant breakthroughs in the development of game-changing disruptive technologies based on evaluations of AAV phenomena from sensor data or crash-retrieved materials. Kean and Blumenthal have worked on at least 5 compelling UFO articles that were published in the New York Times. They went from talking about ATIP, UFO encounters off the East and West Coast, FOIA documents backing up those encounters, and are now exploring UFO crash retrievals. I think this represents a progression of the direction the UFO disclosure process is heading, and this means that soon we'll potentially be talking primarily about aliens. Because if it is ultimately true that an aerospace company funded by U.S. tax dollars has an intact craft of unknown origin vastly more advanced than anything found in any military inventory in the world, then we probably know beyond a shadow of a doubt that some of these mysterious machines that are witnessed and recorded on sensor gathering technology simply do not originate from human civilization. The house of cards will fall, baby. Here is an amazing quote by filmmaker James Fox on what it will mean if it finally gets proven that we have recovered an intact alien vehicle. He's referencing the initial July 23rd New York Times article. But it's amazing, we're not only talking about unidentified aerial phenomena, they're actually talking about crashes and materials recovered. This is really kind of a big deal. Whether anybody believes it or not, if you can suspend judgment and just imagine for a moment if it did happen, if it was substantiated, I think we would all agree that this would potentially be the biggest story in the history of mankind and an answer to the age-old question, are we alone in the universe? And this would be tangible proof that we're not. So let's circle back to the question. Will there be more New York Times articles covering the proposition of UFO crash retrievals? Well, James Fox himself gives weight to the answer being yes, with this quote. There's more coming. I know that for a fact. I know there are more stories coming. More information is coming out, and I can't really reveal too much more than that because I promised my sources I wouldn't. But I can tell you there is more coming. Beyond that, even Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal have informed us that more is coming.
Right. So we just have more information to follow up on and to shape and to dig deeper into that will come out in other stories.
And George Knapp stated on the July 17th Joe Rogan podcast. And I'll tell you, Joe, there's stuff bubbling right under the surface now that is going to rock our world, I think, in the next year or so. Special thanks to all my patrons and YouTube members. If you'd like to support the channel in this way, you can check out the links below. I also have a link to my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. Or you could just slap a like on this bad boy, and I will really appreciate it.